Hi, my name's Lauren Haley, and I'm a board-certified behavior analyst with Brett DiNovi Associates. Today, we're going to take a really fun dive into the wizarding world of Harry Potter, and we're going to evaluate the effectiveness of the group management system they have at Hogwarts. For anyone familiar with Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, Albus Dumbledore runs a pretty tight ship when it comes to his expectations for his students. This includes the use of an interdependent group contingency, which, in theory, should reinforce the behaviors of students at Hogwarts. What we're going to do today is take a look at it from a very behavior analytic standpoint to see if Dumbledore is using it as effectively as he could. In short, the school is split into 4 houses, and students are awarded house points for engaging in different behaviors. For example, doing good deeds, answering questions in class, or winning Quidditch matches. To be fair, there might be other things that students are awarded points for, but us as the viewer and reader aren't privy to that information. So first, in order to assess the effectiveness of this system, we need to hop across the pond and leave Hogwarts. We're going to be going to The Ohio State University, where we're going to pull out the 2nd edition of Cooper, Heron, and Heward's Applied Behavior Analysis textbook. In their chapter on group contingencies, they outline the following steps in developing an effective group management system. Those include choosing an effective reward, determining the behavior to change and evaluating collateral behaviors that may be affected, setting up appropriate performance criteria, combining the procedure with other procedures when appropriate, selecting the most appropriate group contingency, and monitoring individual and group performance. With that background, let's assess Hogwarts classroom management system. Step 1, choosing an effective reward. So essentially, at the end of every year, the house with the most points is awarded a prestigious house cup, which is basically just a trophy. In addition, the Great Hall is dressed in their colors, and they also get a feast in their honor. So the real question is this enough to motivate students at Hogwarts? From all of their reactions, when they win the House Cup, you would think probably. Myself as a behavior analyst, I have one really big issue with it, and it's the immediacy of reinforcement. So essentially, Albus Dumbledore is expecting that students are going to behave the right way all year long for one party at the end of the year. I would suggest that Dumbledore look to modify this in a couple different ways. One suggestion is that rather than award the cup at the end of the year, the cup actually be awarded quarterly, which gives students 4 chances throughout the year to earn access to that particular reinforcement. In addition, if we're looking at it from a positive behavior support standpoint, a good Tier 1 strategy would require goal setting. How cool would it be if when Ravenclaw earns 500 points as a house, they earn access to the restricted section of the library? Something which I think is probably pretty valuable to them. In addition, what about some school-wide goals? Maybe when the entire school as a whole earns 10,000 points, they get an extra trip to Hogsmeade. These are just a couple examples of how they can be infusing more reinforcement opportunities and probably some higher level rewards into their group management system. Next on the list is determining what behaviors they want to change. So I think we can all agree that doing good deeds, answering questions in class, and winning Quidditch games are all pretty good things, right? I would probably argue that they could be a little more objective and a little more specific. So when we're thinking about doing good deeds, what does that mean? That can be a lot of different things. A good classroom management system should have 3 to 5 really objective and measurable rules that students should follow. While those 3 things are very valuable goals, are they really specific enough to have a change in behavior for these students? I would recommend instead that Hogwarts administration change it to 3 to 5 very measurable rules. These rules should be explicitly stated. For example, actively participating in class, helping another student or teacher in need, and following directions. In addition, while it's obvious that teachers at Hogwarts use differential reinforcement to shape behavior, at times the points seem pretty arbitrary. What warrants a student earning 10 points for answering a question, for example, when Hermione is able to identify the potion Felix Felicis, versus when she earns 20 points for a question, like when she is able to identify the potion Amortensia? It might be worth it for administration to iron out those finer details. Next up, does the house point system identify strict performance criteria? As we stated above, there aren't any goals in place. Right now, how houses are awarded the House Cup at the end of the year is just by being the highest earning house. That means regardless of how many points you have, you just need to have the most. That can be 1,000, that can be 2,000. There aren't any actual performance criteria set. What I think would be really valuable is if Dumbledore and the rest of Hogwarts administration sat down and looked at all the points earned over the last maybe 2 to 3 years and established a baseline to be able to set some really good, solid goals for their students. In response to using a classroom management system or a group contingency with other systems when appropriate, I want to actually pass that question to you. One of the things that Hogwarts does is deduct points, pretty frequently actually, especially if you're in Professor Snape's classroom, as a type of response cost. So not only are we giving students points, but we're also taking them away. One of the things I'd like you to do in the comment section below is tell me what you think about that strategy. While you think about that, let's talk about the next criteria that Cooper, Heron, and Heward set in place, which is selecting the appropriate group contingency. So we don't have time today to get into the different types of group contingencies, but I will say that I think Dumbledore hit the nail on the head when he picked an interdependent group contingency. What we see with interdependent group contingencies is that we're able to capitalize on peer pressure, the good kind, to really create group cohesiveness and encourage students to behave in the right way. So I really think that Hogwarts is doing a good job on that one. Finally, Cooper, Heron, and Heward identify monitoring individual and group performance as a really important piece of the group contingency system. Again, Hogwarts actually does a pretty good job of this as well. Anyone familiar with Hogwarts knows that each house has their own hourglass, which shows how many points they've earned as a team. Now, granted, there isn't a way to track individual points, which is something that can be added to this. The purpose of this video wasn't to give you a rundown of all the different group contingencies or even really tell you how to run a group contingency. It was just to be able to do a fun case study to kind of pique your interest a little bit. If you're interested in learning more about this topic from a really strong clinical standpoint, hop on over to our Hacking Clinical channel and check out our video by May Bobren on group contingencies. If you have any requests for applied behavior analytic reviews of other big pop culture hits, feel free to put them in the comment section.